Hello, good evening, and a warm welcome to you. Welcome back to World Online Racing. You're currently tuned into tier number 3. We've arrived at round 4, and it's the home track for many a driver and many a commentator as well. It's Great Britain! One of the home track guys that's joining me tonight, unfortunately not Epic, but we are joined by our good and familiar name of Max. Hello, Max. Good evening. How are you doing tonight?
Hello everyone, pleasure to be up here in the Tier 3 comms box from our normal home of Tier 5, and I'm good, thank you, Frostbreath. How are you on this Monday evening?
Not too shabby, actually, and I'm definitely looking forward to see what we can see tonight. But first and foremost, the reason Epic isn't here is because of some, let's just keep it at health issues, and I'm sure everybody will join me in wishing him well and a speedy recovery for what happened, which is, it was quite unfortunate, and he couldn't be here tonight, but... racing goes on. Great Britain it is, and a look at the standings does tell us many, many things. For example, that Leroy Brown is now having a commanding lead, and that he has been first, second, and third throughout this season in all 3 races so far. Max, what does this tell us about his general pace?
I mean, it just shows that he's overall very consistent with what he does and how he's always up at the front and he's keeping it clean as well. He's keeping himself out of incidents, making sure he just leaves that car's width or two compared to everybody else, and he's just been super consistent at the front and just thinking about the greater picture of things rather than diving it to the inside when you don't need to. You got, of course, Conrad Bohm 32 points back. Of course, he is a reserve, but Conrad, a 10th place, a DNF, and a win. It just shows how consistency is really key, and that's exactly what Leroy Brown is showing with the pace he has.
Sure has, yeah. Conrad, of course, the only driver to have scored a pole position in this tier so far. But the results in terms of racing haven't been there. Of course, he's won the 2nd race in Singapore, but he has a 10th place in Texas, and he didn't finish last week in Vegas. He's been in several mixes of incidents. Very unlucky, and also a little asterisk to Leroy's results. He actually did finish 4th last week in Vegas, but let me see if I can quickly find him. I believe Boba has received a penalty for one of the final lap incidents. Where is he? There he is. Yeah, which means he's been demoted down to P9, if my eyes can see that correctly. So it was an all-finish podium. Finished drivers, 1, 2, 3 last week, but Boba has been demoted down to 9th, allowing Leroy Brown to still climb on the podium, and therefore keeping his podium streak alive so far. But now we're at Great Britain, and last week we said already, this is the track where we think the true pace is going to show for all of these drivers, because, Max, it's a classic one, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. Of course, Silverstone, where it all began for Formula 1, and it's a circuit you see on most calendars as well within league racing and within esports. So this is where the drivers would have put in the most hours, this circuit, and the likes of maybe Belgium as well. Those two are tracks that are staples on pretty much every calendar. But yeah, this is where we get to see everybody at their finest. This is the track where drivers will know the most. They'll know exactly where to brake, how fast they are, and we should see a very, very close grid tonight. And if you want to start a championship charge, you need to do it at this round. We're nearing the halfway point of the season. We're on round 4 of 10, so next week is the halfway point. So if you want to get your championship started, say if you're someone that's not been scoring consistently, but you've got a podium under your belt, this evening is so crucial, because if you're able to get a race win or even another podium on your tally, that could certainly spell you into this championship fight. But with such a gap for Leroy Brown, it's going to be difficult to see him losing it over the course of the next 6 rounds.
Absolutely, yeah. We saw with Alexi Cavero winning the last race and immediately jumping up to P3 in the standings, just 1 point behind Conrad Bohm, who's been at the front of the field much more often, but as I said, been involved in many more incidents. Let's see if that is a repeat for tonight, or whether Conrad can shake off the bad luck and properly start to challenge Leroy Brown before he completely runs away with it. Of course, for Leroy, this is a home track as well. Look at how busy it is on the on the back straight here out of Woodcut and into Cops right here. Many drivers. One driver who was quite ahead of the pack is Lucas Beisner, followed by one of the Williams drivers. Let's see who that is. That is actually Daniel Gottschalk. who is we've crowned him one of the rain masters. He's been really fast in the last 2 races when the rain started to fall. Both in Singapore and Las Vegas we've had rain, and we all know that Great Britain is quite prone to rain as well. So let's see if we can make it 3 out of 4 wet races here in Tier 3. I think that would be quite unique with a 75% wet racing rate. First though, to cross the line and start a hot lap, Lucas Beisner in the RB.
Yeah, here we are then with the RB heading down into turn 3, braking just as you hit the curb and hit the apex very nicely. Run it all the way out wide as you get into the loop, down to 3rd gear. You then want to just ride 3rd gear all the way on the exit of the corner. Then DRS open down the Wellington Straight. Of course, this is so long. Heading into Brooklands. Make sure you don't miss your braking point at around about 45 metres. Get it turned in as you head up into Luffield. Many lines you can take through here. A big slide for Bison. That's one thing you don't want to do out of Luffield. It's a crucial traction point because this is flat out all the way to Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Through Woodpit you go and then up into Cops Corner. Ride 7th gear. You then want to use all the circuit you can on corner exit. As you're now into some of the most famous corners in racing. Maggots, then it leads into Beckett's and then finally into Chapel, down to 6th gear, run the car out wide, DRS open once again, over the second sector to 1 minute 2.6 so far for Beisner as he's heading up into Stowe Corner. Braking late, make sure you hit that apex curb, nicely done, but another big slide from Beisner. That car not happy at the rear end, unfortunately aborts into the pit lane, and of course one thing about this pit lane as well, it is very long indeed. So next car would be Gottschalk as he's now heading through Club Corner and onto the Sir Lewis Hamilton Straight. Across the line, the benchmark at 25.781. Drivers can go quicker, but of course the banker laps got to be a bit slower than usual as Boba nearly just only beats that, with a 7.67, and then Antoine Desalewski goes to the top with a 0.6.
Here comes last week's race winner Alexi Cavero at C. Let's see. Oh, only P6 for now, but that is only just under 2 tenths slower than provisional pole at the moment. Alexi Cavero in the red at the top as per usual. We've grown kind of used to this. Leroy Brown occupying provisional pole for the time being. Let's see. Trying to find Konrad Bohm. He's currently already crossed the line, sitting in 3rd at the moment, with almost 2 tenths slower than the provisional pole sitter. Let's see if he can make it 4 in a row. That would be quite the achievement for the pole to make it 4 poles, and very fitting as well, I have to say. 4 drivers then were unable to complete their lap. Actually, Ivan Santamaria has decided to go out a little bit later than the rest. 16 drivers have already put in a lap time. Ivan Santamaria is going to be the next to do so. Let's follow him around for a little bit. He's been struggling hard in Tier 3 this season. Last season, when he still had his full-time seat, he was challenging for the championship. And this time, though, in this Ferrari, his pace is kind of nowhere. His qualifying isn't there. His race pace isn't there either. In last week in Las Vegas, it just couldn't really get to the top 10 at any given moment. In Singapore, it was a huge struggle as well. And Texas, of course, not in the top 10 either. And he's still sitting at 0 points out of 3 races as he goes onto the back straight towards Cops Corner right there. Also in 7th gear, not surprising by there, taking the inside quite nicely, and then the outside curves as well. A tiny bit of the strike right there will grant you a nice invalidation of the lap. Of course, Maggots and Beckett's coming up right here, and then down to gear number 5, in fact. And then flat out once again, making sure the battery is still somewhat whole right here, and using a lot of overtake on the straight at this point with DRS wide open. Then heading onwards to the final few corners, Stowe right up here. And then onward to another quite tricky bit, but it looks like Ivan is not satisfied with this attempt, goes back into the pit lane like Lucas did, because Lucas had those many slip-ups. His car set up therefore might not be as working as great as he liked. So let's see. 3 drivers then on their second attempt, or at least they're on their way to the line. And the first, once again, to cross the line is going to be Lucas Beisner, but I think we're going to have to follow Bogdan Moldovan around as well. A driver who's been up and down there through the season so far. So once again, Max, up to you to take him through a lap here in Silverstone.
Yep, so the Haas driver now heading up the Sir Lewis Hamilton Straight and into turn 1. It's flat out through here, all about your run in to turn free braking and getting it down to third gear, then get somewhat back on the throttle. You don't go full throttle as you head up onto the run to the loop, and then try to put the power as best as you can as you head through Aintree. Nicely done. A little bit of the slide on the rear end, actually outside out the loop for Bogdan Moldovan. And now heading down into Brooklyn. First sector split at 27.4. Not purple so far, as it's a late apex through there and then into Luffield. This is of course where we saw Beisner have that huge moment, but luckily for Moldovan, it is very nicely done there. Now heading through Woodcote. So of course this momentum is going to be in his hand as he's heading up through Cox Corner. Again, keeping it in 7th gear. You don't want to move up to 8th because that will bog you down too much and you will not have enough straight line speed and you end up just derating down the straight. So as you head through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel down to 5th gear, we saw Basin take it in 6th, got a little bit of understeer. Did the V-carb, it's actually Moldovan 2.4 in that middle sector, so I don't think it's finding too much time compared to the likes of Leroy Brown. Of course, this track going to keep getting quicker as more cars go around it due to track evolution. A bit wide through Stowe, that's going to affect his run all the way down into the Bell chicane, braking as the curbs start. Baisner up into 2nd place, brilliant on his 2nd attempt. What can Moldovan do in the Haas as he heads up to the line? He goes 11th, just behind his teammate Jensen by 0.02 of a second. Everybody else now out for their 2nd attempt. Louis Welch on a lap, he's on a 2.4 as well. This is going to take him around about the same time as Bogdan Moldovan, so looking to break into that top 10 is the McLaren driver as he now enters the Vale chicane. Easy to loop the rear end, or maybe a little bit too much of the 2nd apex curve. That's going to affect his run all the way down the straight, but still up into 3rd place there for Louis. It was a monstrous final sector.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main difference between Bogdan and Louis was, of course, Bogdan having a lot of problems coming out of Stowe, where he lost a lot of time. That is where Louis Welch might have capitalized on the mistake, because the difference between his time and Bogdan, keep in mind, is about 0.2. So from 3rd to 12th, just 0.2 of a second. Just a tiny, tiny difference. The slowest time so far is by Tim Tornimo. Don't get confused by his name, Sigma Tim. He's been reminding us both in the Discord and here on the live chat that his name is Tim Tornimo still. But you're going to have to grow used to the fact that he's called Sigma Tim in this session and the next session after qualifying. There's 9 minutes remaining. We're at the halfway point. Everybody except those 3 who just did their hot laps are currently going fast. Looks like Antoine de Zalewski has invalidated his lap. He's going to have to come back into the pit lane, sitting behind his teammate at the moment. One of the Williams cars across the line next. Once again, it's Daniel Gottschalk. 25.7 it was. 25.7 it is, because 3.5 tenths nearly slower than his previous attempt is not going to help him whatsoever. Then the other Williams of Matex next across the line. That is an improvement. Up to 13th he goes and into the 1 minute 25s for him. That's a little bit better news, but still only 13th fastest. Then I'm going to check out the Ferrari there of Mark Schluter, who has also been struggling. The Ferraris both have been struggling in Tier 3 this season as he comes across the line. That is going to be... Wow, look at that. This might be then a little bit of a comeback for Mark Schluter with a 25.578. Only 2 100s behind Leroy Brown's provisional pole. But we're going to have to switch our attention to the man of Leroy Brown himself. He's 4 milliseconds up through Sector 2 and he has decided to finish the lap. A little bit of a twitch there coming into the final 2 corners. So then across the line over the Hamilton straight. It is not an improvement, probably because of the tiny twitch. Lost quite a lot of time there. But it is still the fastest lap time. And then Conrad Bohm, the 2nd Red Bull driver. He's still a reserve driver, still sitting in P6. Maybe this is not his favorite track to drive on, but it's only 6th place, which still might mean he's got something to fight for the championship.
Yeah, he certainly does. I mean, I was watching the end to his lap. He was about 1.5 tenths up, so it would have promoted him up into that top 3 at the very least. And he had a huge moment out of the Vale chicane leading into Club Corner, and that is what lost him all the time that he found and wasn't able to improve on his original lap time, and that's unfortunate for the Red Bull driver. Of course, Leroy still not improving and surprisingly still holds that top time. I did see some drivers say in chat before the race that I think they were doing about 0.3s, 0.4s, so there is still certainly time in the laps that everybody has set. But of course, the pressure of qualifying in the session is a lot higher than, of course, in practice. A lot more tense for these drivers, and they know they've only got 1 shot at it. So, next driver to be on a lap time, I want to say is the RB of Lucas Beisner once again. Actually, no, it's a hash just in front of him. That's Bogdan Moldovan heading into the Vale chicane. So Frostbreath, why don't you do a full lap of the Silverstone circuit
Sounds
with Moldovan?
like plan,
And
yeah.
the hash now heading through Club Corner.
Yeah, Bogdan is actually starting his lap right now. We've watched him before, so I'm trying to switch our attention to a driver we haven't seen all season. It's actually Lefted. He's a full-time driver, hasn't raced in the first 3 races. He's currently going through Maggots and Beckett's. I'm kind of curious to see how he's going to do. Currently sitting 17th, 2 places ahead of his teammate Joe Hoppa, who is occupying P19. Both drivers in the 1 minute 26s. So I'd like to follow him around for a little bit and see how he's going to do. One of the Alpine drivers right behind him at the moment, and several drivers have started their 3rd attempt. That is including Lucas Bijster, Louis Welch, Antoine de Zaluski, Givano Kennis, the Dutch driver in the Sauber reserve this time, as is Lewis Jones, who's been aching to race ever since round number 1 and finally has been given the chance in the RB. But here comes Lefted then on a proper hot lap for real this time. His first chance here in Tier 3. Let's see what he can make of it. Let's see if he can score some points. Past the Hamilton Straights and into what they like to call Village Corner right here. Then onwards to what they like to call the Loop. And then going to end the very first sector quite soon indeed. Car looking a tiny bit unstable going into the corner, but it's flat out once again onto the first of many straights here in Silverstone. A car going a little bit on the off track right ahead of him, and then 1.5 tenths up through sector 1. The apex once again quite late. Crucial bit then here to get your car straight as soon as possible so you can go to the throttle as early as you possibly can. Then of course out of woodcuts, let's see what he can do right here. Is he gonna switch to gear number 8? Many drivers tend to stay in gear 7 right here. Make sure to stay within the white lines. He does so quite nicely indeed. Of course, the famous corners coming up right here as Antoine actually goes fastest overall, but only 3/100ths of a second quicker than Leroy Brown, whose first attempt is still good enough for 2nd fastest. Givano Kennis going up to P6, which has now become, well, actually does become P6 because Alexi Guerrero goes 3rd fastest. Left it now, only a few more corners to go. Can he get away from that 17th position? With 2 sectors complete now, a few more corners to go, of course, ending with the club corner coming out right here. Go to the power as early as you can. Whoa, a little bit too early, and onto the grass he goes. And that is his lap ruined for real as he spins round, goes backwards, heating the tires up as much as possible. I'm not sure why. Looks a little bit frustrated as Joe Hopper goes 15th fastest. It's absolute havoc there for Lefted. He's not looking very happy with his lap, I think.
No, certainly not. Letting out that frustration, but just flooring the throttle with those softs. Needs to get round quite quickly if he wants to go again. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, this pit lane extremely long, and it's 37 miles an hour. I'm not sure what it is in kilometers. I think it's 50 kilometers an hour.
60.
60 kilometers an hour.
Yes.
Through the Silverstone pit lane, so it does take quite a while. I think it's on average about 30 seconds just without the pit stop to make it through the pit lane. So it is a long one for the drivers to navigate tonight, and that's going to be crucial when it comes to the race strategy, because you don't want to be undercut or overcut in that situation if you do spend that long in the pit lane. So drivers are all in the pit lane. I say that Conrad Bohm is coming out onto a lap. I think Matex is actually on a lap as well in the Williams, heading through the Vale chicane. Let's see where he can go. He's currently 16th fastest. Can he get up into that top 10? No, he goes into 14th place. Still found around about 2/10ths of a second, and it does promote him a few places, but still behind Jensen Rosen in the Haas. But most drivers now coming out onto the circuit to start their final runs of qualifying. So far, Conrad Bohm, the man who's took 3 pole positions from 3 this season, sitting in 10th. And the man looking to displace him so far, Antoine de Zaluski, SRT French at the top for 25.523. But it is oh so close throughout this field. Not even a 10th of a second separating the top 5.
It's incredible, isn't it? And I'm quite happy to see Lucas Bijster and Mark Schluter up there as well. Lucas, of course, Mr. Consistent through the previous season. This time, once again, he came very close to a podium, but he's still missing out on any of those. So he'll be desperate to get onto the top 3 steps as soon as possible. Maybe Great Britain is going to bring him the salvation he so deserves and desires. Conrad Bohm, though, in the Red Bull, coming up next to the line, and first out of all of those drivers who are still going for a hot lap. Of course, Boba and Lefted have already finished their qualifying attempts. They have retired in the pit lane. 8th is going to be the best for Boba, and 18th only for Lefted at his best result, because Lewis Jones and of course Ivan Santamaria are also going for another attempt. But we're going to follow around Conrad Bohm a little bit to find out whether he can keep up his 100% pole position rate. But he needs to find quite a lot of time, and he's got some serious competition ahead of him. All the drivers ahead, especially the driver in P9, Bogdan Moldovan, is already almost a tenth faster. So let's see what time he can find through Sector 1. That is only 4 milliseconds slower. A little bit of a lock-up, and immediately saw the car shooting a little bit further into the corner than he would have liked. So I wonder if this lap can still be saved. Joe Hoppa also retiring in the pit lane. Both Aston Martins from the back of the field, not the result they were after at all, because we saw especially Joe Hoppa fighting from the front of the field a few races ago in Singapore, especially when the rain fell down. The pole, though, trying to make it 4 poles as he goes through Maggots and Beckett and nearing the end of the second sector. Then we're going to figure out whether this is going to be a good lap or not. 1.5 tenths up at the moment. It is starting to look a little bit better for him, but he's going to have to make a very, very big and almighty final sector as the checkered flag hits right now. I think I saw a little bit of understeer once again going through the corner, but it still means he's going to continue on whatsoever. He wants to improve, no matter how little it is going to be. Is he going to stay 10th? Is he going to get to pole position? He does it once again! 25.4. But we're going to switch our attention quickly to the other drivers. Exafox, he was a little bit low for what he usually does, but he's back up into second place. Leroy Brown is one of the next drivers to cross the line. Louis Welch goes into P9. Tom 97 stays in 12th. Daniel Gottschalk stays in 13th. Fastest position right there for the Williams team. Not a great result for the blue cars either, like the green ones, but Leroy Brown is next to cross the line. Can he actually make his first pole position of the season? Is he going to do it? He is not! He is staying in 4th position. Then we're going to have to wait for some other drives to cross the line. Let's see, Bogdan Moldova and Jensen Rausen have crossed it. Mark Schluter stays in P6. Then up next are 2 of the Saubers and 2 of the RB cars. It looks like French has already completed this attempt. He's going very slow. He's not going to go for pole position. Can the other Red Bull then of Alexi Cavero spoil the party of his teammate? As Bogdan retires from the session. There he goes across the line. No, he stays in P5. It looks like many drivers were not able to improve on their final runs then. Conrad and Exafox, and unbelievably, Conrad makes it 4 out of 4.
From what looked like the depths of despair, Conrad Bohm putting out a lap of all laps. And you said he needed a mega final sector. And what does he go and do? He delivers just that. He found 2 tenths alone in that final part of the lap. Conrad Bohm, take a bow. That was an absolutely superb end to that. To keep that 4 poles in a row streak alive. What a way to do it. So, Conrad Bohm, for what seems to be quite a familiar thing to say here in Tier 3, is on pole once again here at Silverstone, followed by Exafox on the front row. Less than a tenth separating that top 2. Then you got Desalewski in 3rd. He spun coming out of Beckett's. Unfortunate for the McLaren driver who was looking to be on a decent lap. Leroy Brown 4th. Alessi Cavero in 5th. Mark Schluter in 6th. Basin 7th. Kennis 8th. Welch in 9th. And then Boba rounding out your top 10. The drivers outside the top 10. Moldovan, Tom 97, Rosen, Gottschalk, Matek, Santa Maria, Hopper, Tim Tornimo, Lefted, and Lewis Jones rounds out your field. Not what Lewis Jones would have wanted starting from last, being so desperate to race so far this season. So is it going to be a last question mark challenge for the RB driver? But of course, we're going to have this lobby restart. We're going to make turn the collisions on. And this is now oh so crucial for the drivers. Yes, they're so used to it now, but still, you get out of that rhythm. You have to wait a little bit, and that could knock a few drivers just a little bit out of their mental state and into their just relaxed mode. And for the actual race itself, may not be the greatest of scenarios off the start line.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Leroy Brown, in terms of qualifying, he's been in the 3rd and 4th positions most of this season. Except the exception, of course, being race number 1, where he was on the front row alongside Conrad. But he's making more of his races so far than Conrad has. Conrad, of course, 4 poles out of 4, but only 1 victory came out of that incredible result so far. So let's see if he can turn it around. Yeah, the concentration levels, of course, are going to, as you said, are going to have to stay as high as possible with the lobby change, because we now actually have to leave the lobby and wait for Louis to make a new one. That's, I believe, been a new rule since this season. Usually, drivers just started the race, crashed each other out, and then we got into the same lobby because it was a bit quicker. But there's, of course, always the risk of having desync issues because the game is working incredibly well, as we all know. So it's going to take, as usual, a little bit of extra time. I've just popped back the calendar, but I think more interesting would be to watch the standings a little bit, because that little 3 ahead of Conrad's name has now become a little 4. In terms of race winners, though, we're trying to follow the what we did last season, because we had, out of 11 races, 10 different race winners in Tier 3. And right now, out of 3 races, we have 3 different race winners. Let's see if we can make it 4 out of 4 again. It will be quite incredible to see many different drivers winning a race. Yeah, I'm curious to see which of these drivers will come out best this time round. Of course, the weather is going to change as well. The weather that was predicted for this race is going to be all different as the weather is set to dynamic. And I'm curious to see what the drivers can do when the rain is going to hit for the 3rd time this season.
Yeah, it would be very curious to see how it affects the drivers, especially around this circuit, where the rain can play a huge part on how a driver sets up a car and how they race. But if you actually look at the standings, the next driver that possibly could be in line for a race victory here this evening is the man starting 2nd on the grid, Exafox, because the standings, they're going in a diagonal order of those race victories. And if you look who's in 4th, that is Exafox. So he could be someone to look out for. Rain or sun, he is certainly looking to take his first race win of the season. Best result of 3rd place so far in Singapore. Looking to up from that, but wasn't able to really back it up well with 15th in Las Vegas. So a lot of work to be done for the Alpine, but starting 2nd place around Silverstone can be more of a blessing than a hindrance. Of course, heading down the Wellington Straight into Brooklyn, you get a lovely slipstream, and also up through Copse and Maggots and Beckett's. So Exafox could certainly be leading on the end of the first lap, outer club corner. So that's something to look out for as well, is the battles over that opening lap of this race. Of course, we said about the concentration levels. If, say, Conrad Bohm's or even Exafox's concentration levels maybe get a little bit distracted, they certainly could see themselves dropping down the order ever so slightly. But for Leroy Brown, it is mainly for the rest of the season. Now, just damage limitation, finish as high as possible, make sure you score some points. And I know it's only round 4, but certainly on his way to looking at one hand on the trophy within the next few rounds.
Yeah, he's kind of in control of this championship, isn't he? Because, as you said, he's so many points ahead at the moment of the man in 2nd place, and he's a reserve driver. So if he's a little bit late with checking in for the next round, Conrad might not race in round number 5 at all, which will be great news for Leroy, not so much for the pole, of course. Alexi, of course, is going to try and challenge into turn 1 as well. Exafox, as you said, in 2nd place. His results on the standings do not really reflect his true race pace, because he's very, very fast. We saw him going quick in Singapore, which did result in a podium, but he was really quick in Vegas as well. It's just that the last few laps chaos really didn't help him. That made him not finish in the points at all, while his teammate Boba did finish in the podium for a little while until a penalty dropped him out of there as well. So the Alpine drivers in all have been a little bit unlucky. Of course, Mark Schluter has found a little bit of return to form in qualifying performance this time round. Finished 7th last week in Vegas. Didn't finish the race in Singapore because that had to be the worst race for Ferrari in quite a long time. Finished well out of the points in Texas as well. So let's see if he can actually capitalize on this proper result right here. We're still missing 2 drivers, by the way, in the lobby, so I'm hoping they will rejoin quickly so we can get underway ASAP. I'm trying to figure out who we're still missing. I don't see the second McLaren driver in. He just joined, actually. Let's see. We're missing one of the Williams drivers. Matex is currently... Oh, no, actually, he just joined there as well. That means we're complete now. Antoine just has to pick his McLaren car. Then the grid, of course, will be set up, and then we'll be good to go. 26 laps here in Silverstone coming up. Let's see what the driver from the back of the field will be able to do, especially Lefted, who is driving his first race of the season. Of course, he'll not be satisfied with this result, won't he?
No, he certainly won't. I mean, when you're race, yes, you're a full-time driver, but when you're driving your first race in the tier, you want to sort of introduce yourself with a bang. So, yeah, it's not going to be the greatest of qualifyings there from Lefted, but of course, you've still got a long race ahead, and this circuit provides plenty an overtaking opportunity. So he's going to have the grip between his teeth, and he's going to try and make his way up the order as best as he possibly can. He needs to make sure he keeps his nose clean being in that mid-pack, and just watch out for any damage. So, I mean, for Lefted, it's going to be all about this race management, all about the strategy, how he attacks the cars in front instantly. Does he attack, then save the tyres, then wait till the end of the stint and then attack again? Or does he just focus on just maximising the amount of tyre he has, and then maybe hurt a little bit when it comes to that pit window, and just drop off a little bit of time? It's all really just a game of chess about what you do. What strategy do you go on? Do you do a medium hard, or do you do a hard medium when you're at the back of the field? That is another question that the drivers will be asking themselves heading into this race session. And what lap do you pit? Will the undercut be powerful? That is going to be probably the optimum strategy, is that undercut if you're someone in the mid-pack, to try and move yourself up the order. But the overcut could still be quite effective. It's going to be all about the battery, all about the tyre management, and also penalties. We've not spoken about that yet. Penalties here for Osprey can play a big factor on that final race result.
They do, yeah. And of course, Silverstone is one of those nasty tracks where you can easily just slip a penalty under your belt, especially, of course, coming out of, what is it, Cops, I believe. A very tricky one to get right. Several other corners that might be difficult. Turn 1, perhaps, if you go a little bit too wide. The final few corners, another place where you can just slip off the track a little bit too early and then get that warning. Some things you do not really want. We've seen plenty of penalties already in Tier 3. Let's hope they can keep it a little bit low this time. I just realized that Givano Kennis is a full-time Sauer driver since race number 2. So this is actually his first proper race as well for Tier 3. Let's see what he can make from his starting position. I can't remember exactly where he is starting from. I believe it's somewhere around the midfield, isn't he? Trying to figure it out. I do not see the results anywhere. I think so, yeah. So I'm curious to see what he can do. Which position?
I think he might be around about 8th or 9th, Kenneth. Okay, so I'm not too sure.
That's a bit of a better introduction for the first time in Tier 3 than for him. Let's see if Lefted can make a bit more ground in the race himself. Terms of strategy, we've seen, of course, many drivers start on the hard tyres in the last 2 races because they knew it was going to rain, and the hard tyres would last them the longest because the rain was falling past the halfway point for both of those races. So everybody except one, usually in the past 2 races, have picked the hard tyres, and those who tried to be daring began on those mediums. And I believe that worked well last week in Vegas for especially, I believe it was Exafox, who had a bit of a poor qualifying there, made up a lot of ground on the mediums, and then the rain started to hit. So he could switch to those intermediates, and then he was driving somewhere around P7 and 8, and then all hell broke loose on the final few corners, on the final lap of the race, fighting for second place. We all remember it well. But that is in the past right now. This is a new race with new opportunities, new chances for all of these drivers to grab a race win here. Let's see, as I said, whether we can make it 4 different race winners once again and keep up the new tradition here in Tier 3 of having as many different race winners as possible, which would not be ideal for Leroy Brown, but he'll be looking to finish as best as he possibly can from 4th position. Of course, Antoine de Zalewski starting from P3. He needs some points. He's still on 0. Non-finish in Texas. Didn't participate in Singapore due to a race ban. Las Vegas only P13. His teammate, Louis Welch, Well, he started on the front row, actually, in Las Vegas last time round. He's still quite high up there this time in Great Britain, so I'm really curious to see what he can bring to the table. But here come the lights then. They're quite quick today with selecting their setups. 5 lights are on right now, and round number 4 here on Silverstone is officially underway. Who comes off the line quite well? Looks like Exafox come off quite really good in the inside line already. Into the lead he goes. Conrad Bohm has already lost 2 positions as Antoine de Zalewski has already taken second place from it and first place, but he goes way too deep into the corner, and it allows Exafox to try and swoop around the outside as they go into the Wellington Straight. And that means Antoine de Zalewski will stay in second position. Conrad Bohm now struggling against his championship rival. Leroy Brown and Conrad Bohm going side by side onwards to the next corner they go. Leroy breaking a little bit later, but he has the outside line. But now he's going to try. But it looks like Conrad is squeezing him a little bit. The other Red Bull is going to help out Conrad right over there as he swoops around the outside of Leroy Brown up into 4th place. Leroy's attack has turned into him losing positions after all. Louis Welch quite close there as well. And so far, no major incidents yet. Mercedes in the back there going quite wide. That was Tom 97. Has been overtaken by Jensen Rosen. Daniel Gottschalk making up positions left, right and center. Going past the Dutchman of Giovanni Kennis. The Williams moving up into the top 10. His teammate, though, has lost several positions down to 19th and has been left in the dust in last place. Tom 97 still fighting hard against the Haas of Jensen Rosen. There he goes, trying to get back past into 13th position once again. There goes the Ferrari of Mark Schluter, trying to get past Louis Welch. Not yet successful. Had a brilliant move into the final few corners. Couldn't make it stick. Stays 7th for now. A very eventful and crazy first lap, but surprisingly, no big incidents yet.
Yeah, really well done there to keep that clean from all the drivers. We're heading to lap 2 and heading up into the loop. Now we've got side-by-side between Kenneth Neely and Bogdan Moldova. Mark Schluter now to the inside. That was a late lunge by the Ferrari onto Louis Welch. They're side-by-side as we now head down the Wellington Straight into Brooklands. Of course, DRS enabled after lap 1. Welch, I think, actually nearly backing out to that move, but no, he still fights it around the outside of the inside for Luffield Corner. McLaren really forcing that Ferrari wide. They're still side-by-side on the exit of the coach, just coming out on top as we head through Woodcote and heading up into Cobb's Corner now, but not a lot of battery to play with for the pair of them. I think Conrad Bowe might have been caught out by how quickly we started this Grand Prix at the front of the field. Maybe that's why he dropped down at the start of this race, did not get a good launch at all. So obviously something went wrong there, but he's now under pressure from his teammate Alexei Cavero as we're going to go side by side for the race lead. De Zalewski hits the front, but Exafox still keeping his nose in there into Stowe. Not going to be able to hold the position, so De Zalewski now hits the front of the field, able to hold the position into the corner this time. And the 2 Red Bulls now going side by side. Cavero to the inside now of Conrad Bowman, but the inside for Club Corner as well. A beautiful move by Aleski as he moves to the front of the field. Bohm, who started on pole position by the end of lap 2, now down to 4th place. And once again, his championship rival Leroy Brown all over the back of him. And this time, Leroy's got no pressure from behind, but Aleski goes a little bit deep into turn 3. Still now side by side between Leroy Brown and Conrad Bohm, and it just quietens out the run out of the loop. But this is where the slipstream comes into play into Brooklands.
Let's see how long he can keep up the pressure right there. The Mercedes driver, of course, Conrad hasn't been having the race start he was dreaming of. And a little bit of an apology, by the way, to the viewers, because you are seeing and watching the standing screen as we were screaming our way through lap number 1. So if you've all completely missed it, many apologies to lap 1. A little bit of a mess up from my side. But, you know, things happen. We're all humans after all. 2 drivers who started on the soft tires, Boba and Daniel Gottschalk. The other drivers have all started on the mediums. Now you might think, will we have rain again then? No, we won't. It's sunny all throughout this race till the very last lap. So a medium to soft tire strategy. Not very surprising for a track like Silverstone, actually. Let's see if they can keep those softs alive as long as possible. They've definitely made up ground. And Exafox is also making up ground again. He's gonna get back past Antoine de Zalewski. And Alexei Cavero has immediately decided to try and go around the outside. Can he make it stick though? No, he can't. In fact, they nearly went 3 wide and a bit of an incident in the back of the field. It's Lucas Beisner, the man so desperate for a podium, alongside Louis Welch, find themselves at the back of the field immediately. And a bit of front wing missing for the German as well, which is bad news because he missed the pit entry already. And now he's going to have to go around the whole lap to get his wing fixed, if he requires that at all. Let's see if his pace is going to be any different after this incident. For now, though, he seems to stay with the entirely long DRS train from first to last, as his teammate Lewis Jones get past Ivan Santamaria for P15. Back to the front of the field, though, Alexi Cavero still keeping Antoine under pressure right there for the fight at the top step of the podium. Ooh, Antoine outbraking himself a little bit, nearly plowing into the back of Exofox, but so far Exofox still leading the race, and Conrad Bohm still in fourth, with Leroy Brown just behind. Looks like Boba and Daniel Gottschalk on the soft tires are about to enter the top 5 themselves as well, with Giovanni Kennis, the next car on the mediums, behind, falling behind a tiny bit as Bogdan Moldovan is under pressure from Mark Schluter.
Yeah, he certainly is. Leroy Brown trying to put Conrad Bohm under some pressure, and here comes Cavero maybe on Desaluski. There goes the McLaren to the outside of the Alpine. Aleski might follow him through. He's going to try and hold it around the outside through Stowe Corner. The Alpine, of course, on that side line won't be able to pick up the power as early as the Red Bull, but he's on this outside line. This is what we saw Cavero do on to Bohm. He's a little bit of contact made. They both go off, and through goes Conrad Bohm and Leroy Brown maybe as well. They're side by side of Cavero and Bohm, nearly 3 wide behind as well, the 2 Alpines and the Williams driver. Luckily for Exofox, he's ghosting through the pair, so no contact being made between them 3 drivers. Leroy Brown up into third. There is some contact between Boba and Gottschalk. Cavero picks up a 10-second time penalty. There's contact between Boba and Cavero into the loop as well. There's drama kicking off throughout the field as that happens, as drivers move up and down some places. Cavero now being overtaken by Matex, who goes to the inside line. Brilliant move by the Williams, very opportunistic. And here comes Tom 97 round the outside as Kennis now picks up a 10-second time penalty for ignoring yellow flags. Drivers picking up 10-second time penalties left, right and centre, and that's unfortunate for Kennis because he did nothing wrong. He just got past Cavero and unfortunately was penalised for that, and that's going to hinder his race entirely. He's going to have to serve that one in the pit lane. But for Cavero, it was all going so well. Tried to be very aggressive with Exofox, didn't really leave him an ample enough of room into Vale, and both of them fall down the for Cavero, he falls down the order. So same with Boba as well, who went for a risky move into the loop, and it's all falling apart for the Red Bull and the Alpine. But here comes Cavero now to the outside of Matex. Will Matex fight it? He is trying to. Just late enough on the brakes to get through, and further up Moldovan and Kennis now going side by side. Lefted gets a 10-second time penalty speeding in the pit lane, and that's not a way to introduce yourself to the tier, and that's a retirement. The first retirement of the evening is the Aston Martin, and everybody else still racing on as Schluter now looking to the inside of Kennis. It's really all kicking off in this mid-back as Kennis holding this one on the inside of the loop. There's some contact from behind on the Scuderia Ferrari as on the exit of the corner, Schluter nearly into the back. That would have been an absolutely monumental crash out of Aintree. As it all comes down ever so slightly. I say that, Tom 97 now going for a move on Matex.
It's just tiny little trigger from Exofox and Cavero's collision, and all hell broke loose everywhere from first to last place. Many collisions and penalties happened. Retirement into the pit lane straight away from lefted. Several front wings have had to suffer many damages, and drivers moving up and down the grid everywhere. Antoine Desaluski leading from Conrad Bohm, who's managed to find his way back up to second place despite the chaos, but he's still got his rival in tow. Leroy Brown is just happily following him around and waiting for the ultimate move. Conrad Bohm there for quickly moving into the leader race, happy to put another car in between himself and his rival right there. Daniel Gottschalk on his soft tires has made up a lot of ground as well. Let's have a quick look at those position changes so far. Looks like, yeah, look at that. Daniel Gottschalk started in 10th place. He's now up into P4. The Dutchman there now getting overtaken by the other Red Bull, by the way. Alexi Cavero moving back up into 8th place, trying to get to the front of the field as soon as possible. By some miracle, all of these drivers are still within DRS range. For a moment, we saw Boba and Lucas Beisner being a little bit further behind, because all of the chaos happening right here, they've managed to close the gap back to within a second. Ooh, Mark Schluter having a bit of a struggle coming out of the corner, trying to chase down the Haas of Bogdan Moldovan. Not really successful there just yet. Looks like Alexi Caveiro's got a bit of a breather behind. Somebody doesn't get a breather is Matex as he's being assaulted again by Tom 97 for a spot into the top 10. Can the Mercedes go around the outside? The Williams is boxed in a little bit, but behind the Sauber. But the Sauber also gets a poor exit, allowing Tom 97 potentially to gain another position. But he's going to have to swoop around the outside in cups. Can he do it? Will we see a Hamilton-Verstappen collision? No, we will not see that, because these two know how to race through the corner right there. And up he goes into 9th place. And now let's see if the Mercedes duo can score the most points this race. They're looking so far quite good. The Red Bull duo doing a little bit better at the moment, we have to say that. Looks like Givano's getting overtaken by many more cars. Joe Hoppa and the only remaining Aston Martin now getting awfully close to the top 10. His race pace is a lot stronger than his qualifying pace. Chaos then in the final few corners. The Saubers go side by side. Tim Turnimo and Givano Kennis battling now for P number 12 right there. What can Givano do? He has to slot in behind. That's an absolute disaster there for the Dutchman, picking up a penalty, and now he's well out of the top 10.
Yeah, Kennis really struggling at the minute. Don't know if it's tyres and a rear locking moment as well into turn 3, and that's allowed Louis Welch by. He's going to say thank you very much, and he's McLaren. I'll take that place. No need to go for a risky move. And he moves up into 13th. Kennis really starting to struggle on those tyres. Maybe he has overheated them, or they have just fallen away from him, as we back at Gottschalk was able to get past Leroy Brown. Of course, the Williams on that soft compound of tyres. He is on the alternate strategy in this field. He's looking to really make an impact with it. Of course, everybody else around him will be on that soft tyre come the end of the race, and they will be quicker with this strategy. At the moment, he will get the undercut effect, and everybody else will have to hunt him down over the course of those remaining laps. A bit wide from Desalewski. Really not liking the front of that car. It's not as pointy as he would have wanted at some corners so far in this Grand Prix. Here he comes then on Conrad Bohm. Going to go side by side into Stowe. The Red Bull just allowing him by braking early, just to make sure they don't lose any time to Gottschalk behind, and don't make any unnecessary moves and unnecessary contact being made. So the McLaren back up at the front of the field. There's chaos at the back. It's Kennis once again, and there's also a spinning Louis Welch, and Kennis has retired from the race. He's gone into the pit lane to retire. Basin has now picked up a 10-second time penalty, and unfortunately he's retired as well. So that's 2 cars in the span of a lap coming into the pit lane and retiring. That's unfortunate to see that they've not carried on in this one, but Kennis really was struggling on his tyres. Here comes Mark Schluter on the exit of the loop through Aintree now versus Bogdan Moldovan. They're going to go side by side down into Brook, and surely this is going to be Mark Schluter's corner. But look at that, further up in front as well. Leroy Brown making a mistake in front of Exafox. Exafox not able to capitalise on that one. Bogdan Moldovan trying to get the run on Mark Schluter. There's contact just about. Mark Schluter saving that car. A brilliant save from the Ferrari. How he's kept that car facing in the right direction, I do not know, as they go side by side through Copse. The Haas forces the Ferrari wide. Cavero behind as well, trying to get involved in this one. Of course, Schluter going to have to back out of that one into Beckett's. But wow, how Schluter is still in this race, and Moldovan as well. I do not know. Brilliant reaction times from the Scarlet Red Ferrari.
Yeah, I don't think Mark Schluter's not that happy right now. In fact, he now gets overtaken by Alexi. Alexi picks up 2 positions due to the Haas and the Ferrari fighting. The man who won last race is back in the top 6 already, but Bogdan is not giving up that easily. In fact, he wants to tell Mark Schluter that whatever the German tries to do, he will fight back as hard as possible. Another driver getting a 10-second pit lane penalty right there as he goes in is Boba, but he's actually going for a proper pit stop instead of retiring due to being on the softs for 9 laps already. But Daniel Gottschalk is still making the most of his tires, isn't he? Look at that there. Still Bogdan Moldovan and Mark Schluter going side by side behind them. Joe Hoppa is fancying another move, getting closer and closer to the top 10. Starting with what was, I believe, is effectively last place for the Aston Martin right there. His teammate is gone, so he's the only Aston Martin that can score points tonight, and he's definitely making the most of it. But I'm very impressed by Daniel's pace on those soft tires. He's still hunting down the top 2, and it still appears he has got the superior pace over the McLaren at the moment. But he's getting very close to that pit window for himself, and that means once he's done those undercut laps, he'll be firmly in the lead of the race. once everybody else pits for soft tires, but that is the moment when they can all start hunting him down indeed, as you said a few laps ago, and he might be in trouble then if they keep their tires alive as well as he does right now with lighter cars. It might spell trouble for the German right there. Exafox under pressure from the second Red Bull right there, as the first Red Bull just keeps Antoine de Zalewski behind. Exafox trying to keep Red Bull number 2 behind. Daniel Gottschalk going around for another lap. 10 laps completed already. We are reaching our halfway point. Boba is now the first driver on fresh tires. He's going to undercut as many drivers as he can. He knows all of them are still stuck within a DRS lane, except for 3 of them. The group of Louis Welch in the back with Jensen Rausen and Lewis Jones as well. Let's see where Boba is going to be after everybody is pitted. Might be a mastered strategy right there pulled off by him. Wouldn't be the first time we see that happening in Silverstone as well. Meanwhile, round number 57 for Bogdan versus Mark Schluter is happening right now. Tom 97 has definitely benefited from the hard fighting between the two, because he's now all over the back of the Ferrari right there, trying to squeeze himself in between those fighting guys right there for P7 at the moment. Let's see how long they can keep one another alive, won't we?
Yeah, we shall see how well they do against each other once more between the Haas and the Ferrari. But Tom 97, I'm really surprised by the pace that he's showing in this race. He's up 3 places from 12th on the grid, but he's really shown some good pace so far in this Grand Prix and able to catch up to the back of Mark Schluter, and he now might get a run on the Ferrari as well out of Chapel Corner. Is he going to be able to get close enough? No, just lets off the battery, but Mark Schluter is going to go maybe for a move on Bogdan Moldovan. Zalewski gets past Bohm. This could allow Gottschalk to go for a move, but no, Gottschalk into the pit lane. Don't speed, of course, this pit lane a lot different to how it was on last year's game. Of course, no wall on that left-hand side, as Cavero also into the pit lane. He is going for a very risky undercut, and that will be a long time on the soft compounded tyres, nearly 6 seconds. And actually, no, he has that 10-second time penalty as well to serve. So that's really going to ruin Cavero's race. That might be why he has come in so early, to get onto those softs, get rid of that 10-second time penalty and try and catch back up to that pack. But that's really going to hurt the Red Bulls race, as back up further through the field, Conrad Bohm still all over the back of Antoine de Zalewski, and Leroy Brown now on the back of the Red Bull. Leroy really has just been trying to keep his way out of trouble, not go for any unnecessary moves when he doesn't have to. Just sit in this DRS train in front of Exafox and just hold on to that top 2 in front of him, and that's exactly what he is doing so far in that Mercedes. Just look how close he gets to Conrad through Cobb's corner, just showing that he might have a bit more downforce on that Mercedes. That could be why he's not as fast on the straights, not being able to go for the likes of Stowe and Brooklands. But DRS will be enabled this time around. Will he get close enough heading up into Stowe? There goes Bohm on de Zalewski. Is Brown going to follow him through? He's going to try to, but the McLaren just slots in front. Once again, Leroy Brown going to have to sit in 3rd place, but Exafox now under pressure from Bogdan Moldovan. This might get a car between him and the fellow heavyweight of Mark Schluter, but no, not close enough for the move, as something's happened to Matex there, as Joe Hopper's got by, and he's all out of shape out of the Vale chicane.
Yeah, but he nearly lost control of the car right there. Thankfully, he managed to keep it in one piece, but he's just going to miss out on DRS if he doesn't catch up quickly. But there he goes, within 1 second again. Impressively, the Williams driver manages to stay within the second right there, and he will still get some DRS and still a good enough tow against Joe Hoppa. Joe Hoppa and the Aston Martin. He started from what was 17th place, finds himself well within the top 10 right now. Of course, 2 drivers have already pitted, but it would still mean, even with those 2 and 3 drivers actually who have pitted, he would still be in the top 10, as Alexi Cavero is now 10 seconds extra behind the rest of the field on fresh softs. With that penalty served right now, he will probably be out of contention for the win, unless a safety car will throw things around completely. That might save his race somewhat, but just waiting now for the moment that those on the medium tires are going to pit. Daniel Gottschalk is leading the group that have already pitted. And then, of course, Boba 4 seconds behind at the moment. Alexi, thanks to his penalty, almost 7 seconds behind the Alpine at the moment. His teammate, Conrad Bohm, trying to keep behind the McLaren and the Mercedes there. But it looks like he's going to allow the McLaren at least to get through. Not his championship rival though, Leroy Brown. So far, as you said, carrying a bit too much downforce through the main straight and the back straight and every straight there is on this track. There goes Bogdan Moldovan on Exafox for P4. But the Alpine is having none of it, and he's nearly having the same collision as he had with Alexi Cofero, and he once again pushes a car off the track in the final 2 corners. But this time, crucially, he stays ahead. It might be that he's now under scrutiny from the FIA for making the same defensive move twice, pushing cars wide, trying to defend his position as hard as he can. Mark Schluter now is trying to get through, and Bogdan will now be unhappy because now not only is he behind the Alpine, he's also behind the Ferrari, and now he's got Tom 97 is having his hot breath in the rear of his car right there, but he's just a bit too far back to make the move right there. Alexi Cofero, not surprisingly, now with the fastest lap of the race, the only driver, of course, on those soft tires. But Exafox, yeah, that I'm not sure if that move was completely on, to be fair.
Yeah, I thought the one with Cavaro was just a little bit of harder racing, gone a little bit wrong. And just that one there for Exafox, that was a bit too aggressive that time around. There was contact before they even got to the exit of the corner, just trying to defend his position with sheer determination. And unfortunately, that was a big piece of contact. That probably won't go unnoticed by Bogdan Moldovan. He probably will report that to the steward's room. So Tom 97 now to the inside of Bogdan Moldovan, and drivers now into the pit lane. Is that Exafox coming in? Yes, no, Leroy Brown is in. And Conrad Bohm into the pit lane. No, it is Exafox and Conrad Bohm. My apologies. Into the pit lane, so it's Desilewski and Brown out in front, followed by Mark Schluter now into third, and then Tom 97, who did get that move done on Bogdan Moldovan into the Vale chicane, and he's up into 4th place. Now, this is where the strategy plays such an important part to this Grand Prix. Where does Gottschalk come out in relation to Conrad Bohm and Exafox? He's now heading into turn 1. Conrad Bohm on the pit lane exit. He's going to have a healthy advantage over that Red Bull, but with 10 laps to go, those soft tyres will be quicker than those mediums for quite a while in this Grand Prix. And we're going to see that 2.4 second gap between the Red Bull and the Williams get eaten into corner after corner. Gottschalk could maybe see himself in a spot of bother here, because if Conrad Bohm is able to put away from him, he hasn't got Exafox. And for the Williams man, it is going to be hard pushing all the way to the end of this Grand Prix. He is still currently in a net race lead, but for Conrad Bohm, he has already gained 4/10 of a second, and we're only just coming out of Luffield.
Yeah, and the gap is not as big as I thought it was going to be, but probably because Conrad and the top 3 in its entirety have been cooperating quite nicely, towing off one another. In fact, speaking of that top 3, 5 of the top 6 are now coming in. And Tom 97, of course, having no choice but to continuing on for another lap. The Mercedes have come very close together on the track right there. And Tom, of course, being the second driver at the moment on track, is having to go around for another lap. But at least he'll be having the freshest tires of the lot. And considering that despite Daniel going in 3 laps earlier than the rest and having only a 2.4 second lead, I don't think Tom is going to suffer that much from this extra lap around Silverstone. Of course, Daniel is going to pass all of these drivers hanging around in the pit lane. Leroy Brown is the first to come out of the whole long slew of cars right there. There they all come. Where's Conrad going to come out compared to his rival? There he is. Where's Exafox going to slot in? Coming in a lap early, side by side with Antoine Desilewski right away. Oh, Antoine going a little bit wide right there. Cold tires allowing Exafox to somewhat slip through and slotting in behind the Mercedes of Leroy Brown right there. I think there was a little bit of contact between the Alpine and the McLaren coming out of the pit lane for Antoine Desilewski there, but they're still both in one piece. And now the race is properly on. Exafox back in contention for a podium right there. There's no other way of putting it. He's recovered quite nicely right there for the Alpine team. He's going to try and make it 2 podiums out of 4 races. Boba there with 6-lap old medium tires is having no chance against the other drivers all around him. Bogdan just easily breezed past, and next up there is Matex to make a move on the second Alpine right there. Struggles for one Alpine and joy for the other one as he's trying to hunt down there the Mercedes of Leroy Brown. Is he going to go for a move? Yes, he is, as they head into the next corner there. Stowe right here, and Exafox up into P5. but he's got a 2-second gap to Konrad Bohm, who's already caught up to the Williams of Daniel Gottschalk. Tom 97 now comes in for fresh tires. Louis Welch is now the only remaining driver to not yet have pitted. 16 laps completed, and he's still going around. He will have then the freshest tires, but the question is, where will he come out compared to the long train of cars that is being led by Exafox?
Look at Tom 97. He's just come out of the pit lane, and down into 13th place. He's been undercut by about 4 drivers there. And here comes Ivan Santamaria to the inside as well. Cold softs versus warm softs. Bohm's able to get past Daniel Gottschalk there, up into Brooklands, and he now takes the net race lead away from the Williams driver. Matex versus Boba now, and Matex able to get by for 9th place. Boba is going to be falling down this order like a stone through water. And here comes Tim Tornimo on the back of the Alpine. Is he going to look to the inside line? That'll be very risky from the kick salver if he was going to try that, but no, look at that as he heads through Cops now, as he's heading into Maggots and Beckett. Still not going to get close enough. Going to hemorrhage some time to Matex in front, especially through the likes of Beckett and Chappell. We're back on the power once more. That gap between Gottschalk and Konrad Bohm, only 0.2 of a second. Not much time found. And look at this for the train behind Exafox. Leroy Brown gets past. Maybe Desaluski gets past as well on the Alpine driver. He does. And Mark Schluter now going to try and get involved. To the inside goes the Ferrari man. He's tried moves around this corner before. Exafox as well, once again on the defensive, forcing another driver off through the Vale chicane. That's 3 times he's done that now. Very aggressive defense has led to 3 separate incidents for Exafox, and that certainly is just showing he's not willing to give up that position. But it's very risky driving. There's contact. It's a push to pass from Mark Schluter into the loop. It was a late send from the Ferrari driver. That's one way to get by, and maybe some payback in the process from what happened at Vale. And he moves up into 6th place. Gottschalk still 4/10 behind Konrad Bohm, so maybe getting in front on those soft tyres isn't all what it seems to be, because the Williams man still able to keep up in that slipstream as the rest of the field starting to get closer and hunt down their prey in front.
There's definitely a lot of hunting going on. I wonder now how Mark Schluter's front wing is going to hold up against these final few laps of racing, especially through the corners. He's missing the right front end plate of his front wing at the moment, as Twan Lent a little bit wide coming out of the corner right there. Might have picked up a warning there, but he does get past the Mercedes of Leroy Brown. So far it seems like Leroy Brown is not having the greatest time on the soft tires, as he's now down to P5, as Mark Schluter has decided to continue on. He's still got enough downforce. He's gotten past Exafox, who has now done 3 times a defensive move in the final few corners. We see a pit stop there from Boba, retiring from the race. This is not his race, he has realized. It's not going to work out on those old medium tires. His very early pit stop hasn't worked in the slightest, and he's now out of the race. That's 4 retirements, all of them in the pit lane. No safety car yet, and I'm surprised to see Louis Welch. He's still going around for some reason. 18 lap old medium tires. The next car behind is 7.8 seconds. That is Konrad Bohm. He's going to fall well out of the top 10, but I don't think he cares very much anymore. He's just going to try and see how far he can go, I think, and then see what happens when he goes to the soft tires. I think he's actually waiting for a safety car to happen, because he's probably realizing his teammate passing on the information maybe about the chaos happening in the midfield between Exafox and Mark Schluter, for example, a few laps ago. But so far the safety car has not yet come out, and I'm afraid Louis Welch will soon have no choice but to pit for those soft tires, and I think this might lead a lap, but he's going to do it. Meanwhile, for the fight in the actual lead of the race, once Louis has pitted, Daniel, as you said, is still keeping up with the Red Bull. Antoine is just behind, 1.3 seconds. Just missing out on DRS, going a little bit wide again, the McLaren does, as Louis Welch actually goes around for another loop. He is waiting for a safety car, isn't he? There's no other explanation than that.
Yeah, he certainly is, and Joe Hopper has gone very deep into the Vale chicane. He's now side by side with Ivan Santamaria on exit, and also Mark Schluter and Exafox having another squabble out of the Vale chicane, and Mark Schluter is ghosting through the Alpine. So have we seen a repeat incident of what happened only a few laps ago? Mark Schluter's not going to take this one lying down. He's going to try and move into the loop, just sit inside that Alpine. And crucially, does Exafox have any DRS? Yes, he does, and only just having DRS on the cars in front of him. And Desaluski is really struggling to get that front of the car to bite on the soft tyres. He really isn't liking that front end at all, getting a lot of understeer, maybe overheating those front tyres ever so slightly. But yeah, Louis Welch definitely going for a safety car gamble here. But he will have to come into the pit lane surely within the next 1 or 2 laps or so, because those medium tyres will be on the verge of popping. They'll be on the verge of a puncture. Will Desaluski get within DRS range? No, once again not able to do so. But maybe this time around, with Leroy Brown taking that 4th place away from him, we can see these 2 drivers get closer to Conrad Bohm and Daniel Gottschalk. Of course, Daniel will have some nice mediums compared to those softs at the end of this Grand Prix, so you still can't rule the Williams driver out of race-winning contention. Yes, he is on that harder compound, but they will be in better condition come the end of this race. We're on lap 21 of 26 here in Silverstone, and that gap between Welch and Bohm, 4.1 seconds. Louis really trying to hold this one out as long as possible. I just don't think it'll be enough, and crucially, Exafox dropping out of DRS range from Brown and Desaluski, so we could see a 4-car battle for this race victory, as here comes the Scarlet Red Ferrari of Mark Schluter with the DRS, easy as you like, he gets blood before the braking zone.
Same goes for Tom 97, by the way, a little bit further back for P9 against Tim Tornimo, who's still got that, the only driver actually so far, surprisingly, with a 3-second time penalty. So the track limits tonight not really playing a big role whatsoever, except for the Finn. He's picked up a 3 seconds. Some other drivers might have picked up a warning or 2 from going a little bit too wide. We definitely saw Antoine Desaluski, I believe, picking up a warning a few laps ago. But other than that, no penalties yet. Now, Mark Schluter is going to try and connect to the top 5, or top 4 actually, who are fighting for the actual win. He does manage, I believe, to pick up DRS. Yes, but his battery light is flashing, meaning he's recharging a little bit. There goes Matex on Exafox. Is Exafox allowing the Williams past? Yes, he is. He's got no choice. Looks like Exafox is starting to struggle quite hard on the softs, unless he's going to try and come back again. He nearly went for it, but thought better of it this time round. He wouldn't want to make it 4 out of 4 right there in terms of defensive moves in the final few corners, and now he's allowed Tom 97 to nearly get alongside him. What's going to happen in turn 1 right there? Tom getting awfully close to the rear right tire of the Alpine. Now he's going to go for a move into the next corner right there, side by side. Once again, Exafox is going to have to defend, this time against another Mercedes. What's Tom 97 going to do? Yes, he gets a much better exit because his tires are 2 laps fresher. And for soft tires, that's a day and night difference, as you can see right there. Easy does it for the Englishman in the Mercedes as he goes into P8. Now chasing down Matex for P7, who himself is also having a brilliant race. Both Williams drivers are having a great time tonight. Both of them gained many positions, but I think so far the man of the match has to be Daniel Gottschalk. He started in 13th, now in 3rd place, and despite on those medium tires, still barely hanging on to podium positions, as Leroy Brown was pretty much side by side through Meckens and Beckett. Let's see now, as you can see, the mediums are really starting to drop off more than those soft tires of Conrad and Leroy, and the attack coming once again, and that is goodbye for now for Daniel's podium, as Louis still has to pit, but somehow the German manages to defend on the inside of the corner. Absolutely brilliant move there by the Williams, as he stays in 3rd, which will soon become 2nd, because Louis now has got no choice but to pit. He gambled for the safety car, it didn't work out, and there he is, going to drop very far behind in the field as Conrad Bohm now properly retakes the lead of the race.
Yeah, Conrad Bohm now officially the race leader. And look at Leroy Brown on the brakes. Just look at the confidence difference. Look at the grip difference between that medium and that soft compounded tyre. Leroy sending corner and gain an utmost amount of time, as here he comes with the DRS to the inside line of Gottschalk, who'll try and hold this one around the outside. Won't be able to hold it though against the Mercedes. And now the top 2 in the championship are 1 and 2 on the road out of left field. There's a big slide for Conrad Bowman. Here comes Desaluski as well on Gottschalk. Those medium tires really are starting to hit the cliff, and he's going to see himself starting to fall backwards through this race. It's through Copse we go. Gottschalk a little bit wide from the apex. And look at Brown, he's pushing that Red Bull of Bone
Literally.
through Maggots and Beckett's. He is really racy at this stage of the Grand Prix. Once we cross the start-finish line, we'll have 3 laps of this race to go. And here comes Leroy Brown in that Mercedes. The look to the inside line into Stowe, and he gets past Bone. Could Gottschalk follow him through? He's looking to the inside. It's the Williams driver. That was a very risky lunge, and he's made it, and he's pulled that one off. But Bone still fighting this one to the inside line. There's contact. Gottschalk somehow keeping his car in the right direction, and now side by side for Club Bowman having to back out on this one. This can allow Desaluski to look to the inside into the turn 1. He's going to hold that one there. Bone falls wide. This is going to be about a lunge, baby, into finish corner, but no, the McLaren just backing out of it. This is inviting Mark Schluter and Tom 97 into this battle and allowing Leroy Brown just to streak clear here. He's now got a second gap over Gottschalk, but Gottschalk will have that DRS heading into Brooklands. Conrad Bone getting closer once again to the Williams driver, not able to get close enough for a late braking manoeuvre. We now head into Luffield once more. Bone just sticking in front of Desaluski. Mark Schluter and Tom 97 still waiting in the wings for the scraps, but Leroy Brown crucially out of that DRS range behind. Surely at this point it is Brown's race to lose.
It definitely is, but crucially, Daniel has managed to get himself in front of the Red Bull, and I think Conrad Bone will be most displeased with the move that Daniel tried to pull off. He made it work, but I'm not sure how clean it was because he was just sliding all over the track. And this is Conrad's championship to lose as well. He has to get past the Williams, but Daniel really wants the podium, but he's now going to get overtaken by 3 cars nearly as he tries to defend against Mark Schluter. Conrad Bone getting pushed wide right there by Antoine Desaluski, who now moves up into second place. Conrad just can't catch a break right there as he wants to get as close to Leroy Brown as possible. It's not going to work for him. There goes Mark Schluter into P4. Daniel's tires are pretty much dead. Tom 97 are the next car to go and try and get past the Williams. A little bit of ghosting going on for, I believe, Mark and Daniel. But Daniel, whatever he does, it is still working for him somewhat because despite his old medium tires, he's putting up a monstrous fight against everybody trying to get past him. But he loses out against Mark Schluter for now, pushing Tom 97 nearly off the track. He's now going to try and make the move the inside. No, the outside. But there goes Daniel Gottschalk again, somehow getting in front of the Ferrari. The battle, the feistiness of Daniel is definitely command-worthy. But man, is this pretty much on the edge of whatever is clean and fair and whatever is considered hard and unfair racing. He's still managing 4th place, but he's got a time penalty, crucially, of 3 seconds, which will drop him down the order no matter what happens. But he wants to finish ahead all of them. As long as he can try, he will go for it. In the meanwhile, Leroy Brown has no longer more than a second ahead of the 2 cars behind. Conrad Bone somehow has managed to catch back up, as is Antoine Desaluski. Whoa, I see some debris flying in the background. What's going on right here? Some of the track is getting destroyed in the battle for what is 4th place, and Tom 97 has sailed through. There goes 2 Mercedes now into the top 4. Tom is having the time of his life because the fighting behind has allowed him to slip from what was at the start of the race P12. Now he's in P4 as we approach the last lap of the race. Who's going to take the win and who's going to pick up the rest of the spoils?
This is such a crucial final lap, and Desaluski is in DRS range of Leroy Brown as we exit out of the loop for the final time. It'll be DRS open down at the Wellington straight. How close does the McLaren get to the Mercedes? Heading into Brooklands corner, it's about 5/10 of a second, and the slipstream will be in the Mercedes' favour. There's battles further back. Tim Tornimo and Mark Schluter going side by side. This is over 9th place in this Grand Prix. Mark Schluter falling backwards on those softs. He was fighting with Gottschalk only a lap ago, and Tom 97 might still be under threat from Daniel Gottschalk behind. Heading through Copse corner though, between that top 3, boom, all over the back of Desaluski. Unfortunately for the McLaren, he doesn't really have that toe being picked up from the Mercedes driver, and he's really backed off through the Maggots and Beckett's section, maybe struggling with some fuel here, is Antoine Desalewski. Bohm nearly looking to go through on the grass on the inside into Stowe. They're side by side, and Bohm just not able to pick that one off. Gottschalk able to get past Tom 97, but the man is Leroy Brown, the man leading the championship, and it will take a commanding victory to be the first driver to get a double victory this season. He wins here in Silverstone. Leroy Brown by 9/10 of a second from Antoine Desalewski. Conrad Bohm manages to pick up third place. Tom 97 ends up in fourth. A brilliant drive from both Mercedes drivers, with Bogdan Moldovan rounding out your top five. But Leroy Brown, that championship lead extends even further, make that 42 points at the top of the standings, and he really is putting one hand on the trophy, and we're not even halfway through the season yet.
Now, on average, this man has managed to gain more than 10 points on his rival per race, so that is really, really impressive. 42 points out of 4 races just shows how consistent Leroy Brown is through his season. He really had to fight for it this time, though, because the racing was absolutely wild, especially in the final few laps. Some drivers will be absolutely fuming about what happened between some of the drivers right here. Here's your results for the time being, with Leroy Brown as your race winner. French just barely held on to second place. He desperately defended against Conrad Bohm. Who knows what's going to happen between those two in the FIA investigations. Conrad Bohm then in third place, losing out a lot of points against Leroy Brown right there, crucially there for him. Tom 97 from 12th all the way out to P4. Bogdan Moldovan also having a good race from 11th to 5th. Matex in the Williams from 15th to P6. He'll be very delighted with that one. Exavox in P7. Mark Schluter only P8 then after his wild race. Daniel Gottschalk with the penalty P9. Tim Turnimo P10. Then down the top 10 where you've got Ivan Santamaria just missing out this time. Joe Hopper P12. Lewis Jones in 13th right from last. Alexi Covero disappointed in 14th. Louis Welch in 15th. And I believe Jensen Rausen just retired before the finish line. Wow. Just a bit of a breather. And I think we'll see a lot of investigations coming up about what happened in the race. Some moves were definitely not on. But we're going to have to find out which drivers would like an interview. I'm going to try and tag them right now. Let's see. That would be, of course, Leroy. That would be... I've already forgotten somehow. Of course.
Conrad and Antoine.
Thank you.
Oh wow, I've just seen the chat. You know when you said, Frost Breath, about all that debris being kicked up heading into Stowe on lap 25? That was because...
screenshot, yeah.
Yeah, Gottschalk was actually forced Schluter off onto the grass and into the advertisement board on the exit of the corner. So that's why Schluter fell down the field before that final lap. And crucially, that is surely going to be another hefty penalty coming at Daniel Gottschalk's way, because there's no way that will be able to stand. And yeah, I'm expecting many investigation, maybe some for Exafox as well. I don't really want to speculate too much, but they're the two drivers I expect to be under investigation at the very least after this Grand Prix. But hopefully we do get some interviews.
We do actually. We've got the man in P3, Conrad Bohm. We'll just drag him in here. Conrad, welcome back to the interview box. You finished third this race. Well done. But I feel like you wanted much more from that.
Yeah, I'm quite disappointed, to be honest. But still P3 after that completely messed up Las Vegas. But is, I think, good result, some good points, but still I lost 10 points to Leroy Brown anyway, so
yeah, you were fighting hard for the win this race. There was, of course, the weddings of Daniel Gottschalk with older medium tires you had to get past, and crucially, you nearly missed out on the DRS there with Leroy Brown. Overall, which point in the race did you think this is the moment where I might win it?
I was thinking for the whole race, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Uh, yeah, I'm gonna win, but yeah, that fight with Daniel Gottschalk, I don't know how to say it correctly, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, he though he attacked me into stool corner,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
we lost the DRS. He was slowing down to be behind to be behind me in the DRS detection zone, and yeah, we lost so much time because of that. And a certain French also overtook me then, and yeah, and I couldn't do anything more, to be honest, because I had older tires, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, you nearly had P2 though from French on the final lap, but he defended the inside. And then on the final corner, you both nearly took each other out of the race. Overall, yeah, 10 points extra lost to Leroy Brown. Looking further ahead in the season, we've got Zandvoort coming up next. Do you think you can make a recovery to challenge Leroy for real?
I definitely prefer more Zandvoort than this track, so we will see, and also that's not the track where DRS is that powerful as there.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough, I guess. Max, anything you'd like to ask?
Yeah, one from me, Conrad, and that's just when you made that pit stop, you got that gap. Did you think you would break away from Gottschalk easier than you did? Because it did seem like just with the power of that slipstream and the DRS, you just weren't really able to make an impact on those softs once you got in front of Daniel.
Yeah, I was hoping that I will pull out from the DRS, but when I saw that in the corners I was only 6 tenths ahead, I decided to just save the DRS, save tires a little bit, because I knew that Mercedes and McLaren will catch us anyway, because they will exchange with DRS, and also we had a plan with Exafox to exchange with DRS, but yeah, he was too far behind and it didn't pay off.
All right, well, let's hope you can turn the championship fight around in the second half of the season. For now, though, I still hope you can enjoy your podium a little bit, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, it looks like Conrad was the only one to join us tonight for the interviews. Both Antoine and Leroy have not joined the Waiting for Interview voice channel yet, and I don't think they will, actually. We've already seen a report coming in, though, from Bogdan Moldovan against Exafox on lap 13. That was probably one of those laps where Exafox defended in the final few corners. I think these results, as they stand right now, will not remain, don't you think, Max?
Yeah, results at the moment, and yeah, it was the Bogdan Moldovan incident where Mark Shooter was able to get alongside and ahead, and it was where Bogdan also went on the gravel outside of Club Corner and picked up a bit of front wing damage in that incident as well. That might have explained a bit of Bogdan's pace drop-off, because he was quite quick at the start of that race, but unfortunately with that incident, that would have just made him a little bit slower, and that's why I didn't make too many inroads to the front of the field after that. But yeah, very provisional results. I'm surprised we've seen only one report so far, but expect within the next couple hours a lot of reports coming in to the channel.
Yep, stewards once again are going to have a busy night in Tier 3, like they had in the first race, actually, which is a shame. We're hoping for a bit more proper racecraft, but Great Britain, with a track like this, the racing all race, they were all very close together. Barely anyone managed to form a group on their own. Just by the end of the race, people are starting to fall apart a little bit more, but especially at the first half of the race, there was just a long train of nearly 20 cars driving behind one another. So no big surprise that the racing was going to be close, hard, and at some times a little bit over the edge, to be honest. But, you know, things are what they are. We're going to look forward now to next week, where we'll see Zandvoort come out, which is actually my home country right there, the Netherlands. At the sea, at the coast, at the beach, so to say, within the dunes. Beautiful little Zandvoort right there. Really looking forward to see what Leroy Brown can do from there. He's now got 42 points ahead of the rest, and that is going to be crucial coming up for the rest of the season. Thank you so much for watching here in round number 4, Great Britain, Silverstone. It's been a pleasure as per usual. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Don't forget to subscribe and like the stream as well. And we'll see you next week. Same place, same time. Until then, goodbye.